Hi and welcome. I'm Elvira Boulay from the Dimitrov Boulay Piano Duo. And today I wanted to give you a few tips in order to help you play Rachmaninoff, and in particular the C-sharp minor prelude. I think from all the preludes, this particular prelude in C-sharp minor, that begins that way. I think that it is easiest, which is really weird to say in relation to Rachmaninoff, but I think it's the easiest prelude to play. I think there are a couple of challenges though, and I just wanted to give you a few pointers to hopefully help you out and to hopefully make the learning of this prelude a little easier. I definitely think it's worth a try. If you've never played Rachmaninoff before, you can give it a go. So I think that the first difficulty with this piece and with Rachmaninoff in general and with late romantic pieces in general, these composers all started to write more and more complex. Harmonically, they started to write more and more layered, so more bigger and bigger chords. If you compare it to, for example, Mozart, right? Mozart sonatas. The structure of that is really simple and the technique is also smaller. You have more scales, arpeggios, octaves every now and then. But if you look at the late romantic pieces, they very often have very massive kind of technique, very big chords, and that's, I think, what makes it difficult technically, but it also makes it really difficult just to get through the notes, so the reading. And that is the first thing that I wanted to discuss. So let's take a look at how to kind of simplify reading. In other words, if you don't read notes really well, don't get started with Rachmaninoff. Go first through some earlier romantic pieces, or even better classical works, Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven. So don't just get started, because you'll most likely get stuck. It would be very difficult. So let's take a look, for example, at the third bar. Here we have a lot of big chords, and I think that how to simplify this is first to look at the outside structure. So very often big chords have like an outside structure, very often octaves can also be something different, and then they have like a filling, right? So in order to kind of simplify it for yourself and for your brain, you'd want to look first at the outside structure, which are the octaves. So forget about the inner notes. That's what I would play a couple of times to have it in your hearing. So I think a very important part of learning a piece is also to learn its melody, to make sure that your ears remember how it should sound. That also helps you catch wrong notes. So let's do the same thing with the left hand. Suddenly it becomes a lot more simple. It's actually just octaves. Instead of seeing, whoa, what a lot of notes, it's just these octaves, and you can play them together at the same time. Again, to kind of get your ears used to how is this supposed to sound, so that later you can check if you are playing correct. So this actually, it seems really intimidating, but it's not that difficult. The introduction is just not that difficult. So then you got started. You can even look at the inner notes just separately, but I like to look at it just as intervals. So you see that actually every single time you have an interval of a fifth. Here you have a fifth, here you have a fifth, here you have a fifth, separate notes, and again a fifth. All fifths except the last one, a diminished fifth. And that actually makes it a lot easier to learn, because all you have to do is kind of feel the distances, right? Your hand is going to keep playing the same distance. Of course you have to check the notes, but once you find the logic, it becomes a lot less intimidating. And I think that is the reason why you might give up on this piece, is because you're just intimidated. You don't have to be. So the left hand, you always read in general chords from the bottom. So I see that they're all thirds. And then fifth. And again, a third. So if you look at it that way, all thirds, fifth, and again, a third. That's how I tend to look at these kinds of things. Just simplify everywhere that you can. Simplify, see patterns, recognize patterns. do that. Make it easy for yourself. And this is, in the end, there's a reason why pianists play by heart. In the end, it is easier, I think, to play this by heart, even though it takes work to memorize it, obviously. But it is easier to memorize, to see the pattern actually what it is, than to actually read it while you're playing it. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then, of course, my favorite part when I was first learning it, which was a very long time ago, what I think is intimidating about this, and it doesn't have to be. So this is actually easier than it sounds. It sounds really impressive, which is always what I like. Something that sounds impressive, but it's not that much work. So you have to really see this in separate groups. Don't see this as separate notes, because if you see it as separate notes, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be 12 notes per bar. Don't see it as separate notes, because then it's going to seem like a lot of notes. See it as 4 groups of notes. 4, it's a lot easier to learn than 12. So these are one thing. They're not separate. They're really, they belong with each other. They're chords. They're just broken chords, that's all. So practice them as chords. Really try to see it as groups belonging to each other, and try to see how your hand is moving. So your hand should be moving in between the groups. And then and your weight every time should be on the first one, right? Just as if you would play the chord. Really try to see that as one. I really don't see it as separate notes. And I think that's going to help you a lot, both to learn it easily, the notes, and technically, because you don't want to be working really hard on all the notes, because that is, how you're not going to achieve speed. Speed comes with as much relaxation and lightness as possible. Okay, so I think that is, the awesome part, right? And, well, actually every part is awesome. And then, of course, you have the end, in which you suddenly see that you have to read 4 staves instead of 2, which is absolutely crazy, of course, but it does happen. It's not only Rachmaninoff, you see this with, of course, Liszt, who else, right? And it's really simple. First of all, learn it by heart, but you just read it just as you would read 2 staves. So you read here, it's just a double G clef. So again, just kind of try to see the first chord here. It seems like an enormous load, but it's just a C sharp minor chord, sorry. So you would play this together, right? And then you would play this one together, and you would play this one together. So that's all you do. So you read the same way as you would read two staves. Just do it exactly as we did it in the beginning. And I'm looking at it now, it seems to be all octaves. I haven't checked, and like I said, I haven't played it in 15 years. But the structure is easier than it seems. And then my number 1 tip would be learn this by heart. This is crazy. This is crazy to read. I mean, that's just because there were too many notes for 2 staves. Can you imagine? So just learn that by heart. That would make it much easier. But first of all, just simplify the structures. Just look at it, look at the octaves, look at the outside first, and then look at the filling. Okay, so I think that was it. I really hope that I inspired you to take a look at this prelude. Anyway, so don't forget, Dimitar's music is now on Spotify, so go and give that a listen. I'll put the link down in the description box. The sheet music is also available. A lot of people have been asking us for that, so that is available. I will put also a link to that in the description box. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook if you want to hear regular updates of what's going on, especially with Dimitar's music. But also we upload small tips there and all kinds of stuff. And let us know if you have any questions about any piece, if you'd like some help. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.